All right, now the man to talk about breaking down all these brackets, who's going to move on, who's going to upset Cinderellas, all of that good stuff. Richard Skinner. Skinny, you ready to get into some stuff?
Let's do it, man. Let's break it down.
We're going to start with the West region. We both agreed on what part of the bracket to watch, but this is the one with Gonzaga in it. I think we agree the Zags are probably coming out of it, but who do you want to watch on this part?
Yeah, on this part, I love Iowa. I know they're goofy, but you got Garza, and he is such a talented player, and you got all those shooters around him. C.J. Frederick's back healthy. Listen, they could go out to Grand Canyon because Grand Canyon can score. They could go out in the second round, but I think they're the team with enough talent playing in the Big Ten as well that can get themselves all the way out of this part of the bracket.
For me, I think what's really interesting is this Oregon team. They've had a lot of talent, but been up and down. The Pac-12's pretty much been unpredictable. But if Oregon's firing against the VCU team, I like Oregon to maybe make some noise.
And they play. We would play each other there. And that's a great second round matchup for sure.
I also think, look at this Kansas team right here. It's Kansas. I know it's not the usual Kansas that we're used to, but they're still the Kansas Jayhawks. Maybe they could make some noise.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously COVID knocks them out of the Big 12 tournament, so maybe they would have gotten some momentum going into this, and they are a very talented team. USC is too. I mean, USC's got a singular great player. The Pac-12 is not great, but it was better this year. That part of the bracket's good, but as you mentioned, the behemoths on the other side, it doesn't make any difference. They're rolling the table.
Undefeated coming into this. Do you take the field or you take Gonzaga out?
No, I think I take Gonzaga. And as we know, nobody's done it since 1976 when Indiana went undefeated and won it. That great Kentucky team from a few years ago survived in the round of 8, then got to the Final Four and finally got beat. It's hard because now the pressure continues to build because you still have that 0 in the right-hand column. But they're so uber talented, and honestly, I don't think they have a very tough region to get out of. I think if they get to the Final Four at that point, then they roll through it.
I think what Gonzaga has this year that a lot of teams previously that were undefeated don't have is they're not a big name team. Right. Even though they're undefeated, the pressure on a Kentucky to go undefeated is Kentucky still. They got that scare in the conference championship game. They were able to overcome it somehow. Do you feel like this is a team that could do it because of that?
I do, and because in this year, the upper echelon is not super. There's a lot of teams, 3 through 9, 10 seeds that you go, okay, they're kind of similar teams. I have a hard time seeing them get upset until we get to the Final Four, where you are maybe matching up with an Illinois, when you are maybe matching up with a Baylor and maybe some other talented team. I just don't see them not getting out of this region. I think it would be a monumental upset.
And for someone who used to work in the western part of the United States, I'm going to do a little lesson for everybody. It's not Gonzaga.
It's the Zags.
It's Gonzaga.
That's why they're the Zags. They're not the Zags.
Yeah, they are the Zags. Gonzaga. You got to say it right if you don't want Gonzaga grads jumping down your throat this March. All right, we're staying on the left side of the bracket. Michigan, kind of surprising with how well they did all year. The 4th #1 seed. To me, at least looking coming into the tournament, probably the most vulnerable #1 seed that we have.
Yeah, I mean, they earned the 1 seed for sure, but losing the Livers kid in the Big Ten tournament really compromised them. They earned it, but I think they're on a little bit of shaky ground for sure.
And we're out here, this side of the bracket for it. Who's your team that you think might make some noise over here?
The one towards the bottom, Florida State. They just got great length. They've got a lot of talent. They are going to face a tough first-round game with UNC Greensboro. I love Colorado, but I think Florida State matches out there. I think LSU probably gets Michigan in that second round, but LSU's so inconsistent. They don't guard very well that the team that comes out of that bottom ends up winning that side of the bracket.
LSU playing very well against Alabama in the SEC championship game. We got to talk about, because that Alabama team is in the bottom half of the bracket in the games that I think we should watch. We got to talk about the Crimson Tide because number 15, lo and behold, welcome back, Rick Pitino.
Think about this year. No Duke, no Louisville, no Kentucky, no Xavier, and yet Rick Pitino, no UC, and somehow Rick Pitino makes the tournament with Iona, one of only a handful of coaches to take 5 teams to the tournament. What do you think of him as a person is your own business. I get that. But that man he is the greatest college basketball coach of my generation. He really and truly is.
He brings Iona in. Now, very interesting with this Alabama team. As good as they are, and they flirted with potentially being a #1 seed, their style of play, we talked off air before we came out here, interesting. What do you think? Can Pitino pull off the upset?
He can't pull off the upset because they're just too talented. Their style of play, though, as you mentioned, they are literally, there was a game this year where they either shot a layup, a dunk, or a 3. That was their shot chart. There was not one mid-range jump shot. And I think it was actually a regular season game against LSU. They were either going to score at the rim or they're going to shoot 3s. And that's great because it's what they do, and they score in the 80s, and they're hard to guard. But on one of those nights when they're kicking out for 3s in the NCAA tournament on a neutral floor, you're not making some of those, it becomes very, very dicey. It's not going to be dicey here. It's going to be dicey in round 2, and it's going to be dicey as they move out. But to their credit, to win the SEC tournament with that style of play after being the 1 seed in that league, credit to Alabama.
And it's so polarizing when you have those teams because either they get hot and
right.
you go all the way, you win
like
it all.
Auburn a couple years ago.
Yeah, like Auburn a couple years ago, or you go stone cold and a team like Iona upsets you in the first round. I also think in this part of the bracket, you got to watch out for BYU. They're pretty good. They pushed Gonzaga to the limit. And then also UConn. A little underrated, I think, coming into this.
I actually thought they'd win the Big East tournament. I did, and unfortunately they did not. Got beat in the semifinal round, lost the lead late, but I think they're playing extraordinarily well. That loss doesn't change my opinion of them. They're super scary.
The Midwest side of the bracket, Skinny, very interesting. We see the AAC champion Houston Cougars there. We see the Horizon League champions Cleveland State. Who do you have to keep an eye on in this part?
It's Tennessee, and I know that's going to be the SEC homer in me. I'm a Kentucky grad, so I'm all SEC all the time. But I really think they are a tough team. We're looking at the other side of the bracket as we speak here right now. Obviously, Bob Huggins in West Virginia is a team that's very, very dangerous. They were weird because they didn't play great down the stretch, got beat by Oklahoma State in the conference tournament, but I think they're really good. That Houston team, you know, I've gotten talked off of this by a couple of friends of mine. I want to go make a wager on them for the Final Four. I've wanted to do it for a long time. I have not done it. They're uber talented, Chris. They really are.
37-point win. You know, I guess UC made up 1 point from the last time they played each other, but I think Houston's a wild card here. Something in my gut says, are they talented enough to make a run? Yes. I don't know, and part of that is because Cleveland State has played so well this year, and a lot of people are making noise about them potentially being a Cinderella. They pushed Ohio State to the brink earlier in the year. They're red hot right now.
I just think where that draw is, though, Houston's clearly a better team. I don't like either Clemson or Rutgers. You get out to this point of the program, I think San Diego State's a dangerous team at the top part of that. I think West Virginia's better. I think it becomes the 2-3 seed. The team to watch for me is on the other side of that bracket, which is Tennessee. They got length. They were a Final Four pick before the year started. They do have to get through Illinois, and if we get the Final Four picks, they're kind of my team that's maybe is going to win it all. But Tennessee has at least a front line that can match up with Illinois. There's not a lot of teams that have that.
Coming from a UK grad, you know he's serious about the Volunteers. I didn't think that was allowed.
I know it's not allowed in theory, but I got to give props where props are to be given.
We also got to talk about Bob Huggins here. He's got a team in West Virginia, been stuck on 899 career wins. Does he get to 900?
He's getting 900 against Moorhead. Preston Fradlin's done a great job. They played Xavier early in the year. Moorhead did. He's done a great job with that program. The Ohio Valley Conference was really good. Eastern Kentucky was good. Belmont's always really good. To win that league says a lot about Moorhead. They're not getting past West Virginia. They're just not. Miles McBride is too much of a winner. Sean McNeil, a couple local ties there. Sean McNeil from Cooper High School over in Northern Kentucky, and obviously Miles McBride from Moeller. That's always a fun team to watch. I love West Virginia here. That 2-3 game with them in Houston will be really, really good.
Another team neither of us are taking, at least right now. San Diego State making some noise. I think Seth Davis picked them to make some noise in this tournament. Really a tough top to bottom side of the bracket.
It is. I mean, this part right here, I can give you 5 teams in San Diego State, West Virginia, Houston. Honestly, Syracuse, they're goofy enough to get hot.
I mean,
they really are. Right, exactly. I mean, they barely got in the tournament, but that's a really interesting. The one teams I don't like Clemson or Rutgers. That's about the only game I don't like out of the first round.
The South region, finally the one team from the tri-state area that's actually in the tournament, Ohio State's region, Skinny. The Buckeyes making some noise. They look good in the Big Ten Tournament Championship. Seem to shake off all the rust that we thought they had towards the end of the regular season.
Honestly, I think they're in maybe one of the easiest brackets all told, so I like the Buckeyes' chances to maybe get through this. I really do. I think Baylor's a really vulnerable team. I think Michigan's the most vulnerable 1 seed just because of the injury. But Baylor didn't play great down the stretch either. And Ohio State, I think, showed today by taking Illinois and pushing them to the brink. They played another couple tough games in the Big Ten tournament. That's a resilient group that's really talented.
That's an Ohio State team that pushed Illinois to the brink while beating a very good Michigan team day before.
That's right.
You can tell they were gassed, but this is your side to watch out for. Who are we looking for on this side?
I'm looking at Purdue. I mean, Purdue's got length. They've got ability. They've made tournament runs before. I don't know if Baylor gets through the second game with North Carolina, Wisconsin. North Carolina's length is absurd. I mean, they might be the biggest team in the tournament. Not that big always wins, but their length can match up with Baylor. Baylor's got a little bit of a gauntlet starting right there. I don't like Nova. In fact, I think Pat Kelsey and Winthrop ends up beating Villanova. Villanova's vulnerable because of the injury to the Gillespie kid. I think Purdue matches out of here. I think Carolina's a sneak team from the top, and I think Purdue gets through this. They showed a lot for me coming back in the tournament, in the Big Ten tournament, and getting their game late and getting it to overtime. They're a talented group, and I think they got a great draw because Nova just even if they win that game, they're not getting through Purdue, in my opinion. And I don't think you're getting through Pat Kelsey either.
Talent is a big thing in the tournament, but a good draw almost goes
it really
just
does.
as much.
No, there's no question. I mean, Baylor, that is a nobody wants to see North Carolina as an 8 seed. None of the 1 seeds wanted to. And guess what? Baylor's going to see them.
My side of the bracket here, I got an upset bid for you right here, all right? I'm looking at the Hogs of Arkansas against Colgate. Minty Fresh, Colgate. They score a lot of points.
They do score a lot of points.
Number 2 scoring offense in all of college basketball. You know who number 1 and 3 are? Gonzaga and Baylor.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you, that game's got 95-92 written all over it. And again, you look at that side, Texas Tech is meh. You know, Colgate, usually there's one of those teams you look up, you go, why did I not pick a 14 seed to get to this round? Now, I do think Arkansas is really good. They got some grad transfers. Coach Musselman's done a great job, and he's done this before. But again, you look at that side, Ohio State is in a great spot. Florida and Virginia Tech, they don't do much for me. I think Ohio State gets through this bracket. That's why I think they got a great shot. You talk about draws, great shot. It may be them and Purdue in the regional final, and hey, that'd be a great matchup for both.
You know, it's this time of year, we pretend like we know what we're talking about, but really it's all a total guessing game when it comes to this. But I will say, at least this game, you remember, it'll be entertaining.
Yes, it will.
First one, 115 might win that
question.
one.
Colgate lost 1 game, and I know you can argue who they play, where they play, all those things. They lost 1 game. It's pretty good.
I agree with you, though. Ohio State, very favorable draw in this one. Hey, who knows? The Tri-State needs somebody to root for.
Exactly.
This March, right?
We got 1 left.